Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Thank you, Ramapati Prabhu. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhamsa Pravikacharya Ashtracharya Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhamsa Pravikacharya Ashtracharya Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Prem se hai Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopana Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Natikoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Narayanam namaskritya Naram chaiva narottamam Devim saraswatam vyasam Tato jayam ayurdayet Nashta prayeshu bhadreshu Nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavat uttam ashloke Bhaktir bhavati naishtaki Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya So this morning we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 4, Text 39. Kvachid Rudati Vaikuntha Chinta Shabala Chaitanya Kvachid Dashati Touch Chinta Lada Udgayati Kvachit Kvajid Rudati Vaikuntha Chaita Shabala Chaitana Kvachid Dashati Chachinta Lada Udgayati Kvachit Kvachid Rudati Vaikuntha Chinta Shabala Chaitana Kvachida Sati Tachinta Lada Udgayati Kvachit Kvachid Rudati Vaikuntha Chinta Shabala Chaitana Kvachida Sati Tachinta Lada Udgayati Kvachit
Chinta Shabala Chaitana Udgayati
Anyone else? Okay. Kvachit, sometimes. Rudati, cries. Vaikuntha Chinta, by thoughts of Krishna. Shabala Chaitanya, whose mind was bewildered. Kvachit, sometimes. Hasati, laughs. Tachinta, by thoughts of him. Aladaha, being jubilant. Udgayati, chants very loudly. Kvachit, sometimes. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada. Because of advancement in Krishna consciousness, he sometimes cried, sometimes laughed, sometimes expressed jubilation, and sometimes sang loudly. Purport. This verse further clarifies the comparison of a devotee to a child. If a mother leaves her small child in his bed or cradle and goes away to attend to some family duties, the child immediately understands that his mother has gone away, and therefore he cries. But as soon as the mother returns and cares for the child laughs and becomes jubilant. Similarly, Prahlāda Mahārāja, being always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, sometimes felt separation, thinking, "Where is Krishna?" This is explained by Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. "Śūnyāyitaṁ jagat sarvaṁ govinda-viraheṇa me." When an exalted devotee feels that Krishna is invisible, having gone away, he cries in separation. And sometimes, when he sees that Krishna has returned to care for him, he laughs, just as a child sometimes laughs upon understanding that his mother is taking care of him. These symptoms are called bhāva. In the Nectar of Devotion, various bhavas, ecstatic conditions of a devotee, are fully described. These bhavas are visible in the activities of a perfect devotee. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Śrī Caitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vancha Kalpatriyubhyascha Kripa Sindhibhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So now we're understanding that a child is fully dependent on his or her parents. They depend on their parents for nourishment, care, affection, and also shelter, so on. So those who have children can understand the different cries of their child. My brother, he has a 3-month-old daughter now. And I heard from parents that the most scariest crying is no crying. You know, what are they doing? So they need to make some noise. That's how they convey what they're feeling. And a child can only cry. Whether they're hungry, they need to be fed, they need to be changed, and so on. And so a child, this is how they express their ways in that age group. And crying is a very strong emotion. I remember when I go on book distribution, and Dvija Money knows, one of my goals is to make someone cry. And it's not I don't do it on purpose, but you know, I try to share how wonderful the books are and how they can change our lives. And so, those that don't know, I have a twin brother. And I remember growing up with him, it was very difficult. We would always argue, we would always fight. And sometimes it was a fist fight, you know. And I remember one time, my brother and I were, but I always knew that my brother would beat me up, you know, but I just pretended like I was stronger than him. And I remember one day I was breathing very heavily, you know, I was crying, I wanted to really choke my brother. So my mom, she stopped us, she got in the middle, in between us. And she went to the kitchen and she took this big knife and she threw it in the middle between me and my brother. And then me and my brother were looking at each other, you know, who's going to make the first move. And then my mom, she said, here, you know, here's the knife, go kill yourself. And that was when we were pacified. So from that day, I always remember that my mom, she taught us a very important lesson. That even though we hate each other, we're nonetheless, brothers, connected. And in Kali Yuga, my spiritual master, His Holiness Bhadrinarayan Swami Maharaj, I remember in one class he said, natural allies are now becoming enemies. Husband and wife, the son and the parents. And in this Kali Yuga, there's unwanted population. And people are having children just on the basis of physical attraction. So it reminded me of the saying that love at first sight, right? Oh, you look so beautiful, you look so handsome, And then if that foundation is very cheap, the following line is divorce at first fight. First fight. So as soon as they argue, there's divorce, there's fighting, so on. And Chanika Pandey, he describes that enemies can also be enemies sometimes, family. There's 4 enemies in a family. A mother who's beautiful, a father who dies a debtor. Yeah, the wife, I'm sorry? I'm sorry. The wife who's beautiful, the mother who marries a second time, and sometimes Srila Prabhupada would say in front of their grown-up children. And then a son who's a rascal. So after Dhruva Maharaj, he went to the forest to perform this severe austerity. His mother advised him, if you want to see God, you have to go to the forest. I heard from great sages that they find God in the forest. So after he performed this tapasya and he was able to get a darshan of Krishna, he went back to the palace. And after Dhruva Maharaj was reunited with King Uttanapad, the king smelled Dhruva's head. Does your culture have that? Where the grandma or the mother would smell the head? Yeah. My grandma, she would do that all the time. And I was thinking, why are you smelling my head? But I guess it's to show affection. And it's described that after the king smelled Dhruva's head again and again, he bathed Dhruva Maharaj with torrents of cold tears. And Srila Prabhupada describes that there's 2 types of tears. One is hot and one is cold. In the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada and the purports explain that Arjuna was crying and his tears were hot. And Srila Prabhupada explains that hot tears, they represent anger or despair. And cold tears are joys of tears that are cold. They represent joy and happiness. But nowadays, when people cry, it's all bad. So, on book distribution, when people ask me, what is this book about? And they point out the Bhagavad Gita. And I explain to them that this great warrior named Arjuna, in the middle of the battlefield, he asked Krishna, please take me in the middle. I want to see those that I have to contend with. And I tell these people, you know who he saw in the opposing army? He saw his friends, his brothers, his relatives, everyone that he loved, his teacher. And I told him, and he had to kill these people. And they can understand, wow, that's a great crossroad, That's a very difficult situation to be in. So I explained that the Bhagavad Gita is that guidebook to help us understand what is the right thing to do. And they automatically become interested in the Bhagavad Gita. And I show a little bit of the verses. When Yamaraj, in the form of Yaksha, he was asking Yudhishthira Maharaj many questions. And one of those questions he asked was, what is heavier than earth? What is taller than the sky? And what has more than numbers of grass? And Yudhishthira Maharaj, he said, mother is heavier than earth, and father is taller than the sky. And then the thoughts are more in number than grass. And Yamaraj, he was very surprised by this explanation. And then it's explained that Yudhishthira understood that by serving the mother, one is said to obtain the earth, and by serving the father, one could rise to heaven. So we should remember to be grateful to our parents. And so the child is very dependent on the mother and the father in their childhood. But there was one great devotee who relied on his mother solely, and that was Narada Muni. Narada Muni, he only had his mother. He didn't explain, why his father was not there. So both of them, Narada Muni and his mother, served great Bhakti Vedanta, is described. And he took remnants. And somehow or other, the mother was bit by a snake, so he was left all alone. And he went out of the town, village, and he saw everything. And one day he was meditating, and Krishna appeared to him. And then he told Narada Muni, I regret that during this lifetime you will not be able to see me anymore. And then he explained there's two reasons. Those who are not complete in service, devotional service, and who is not completely free from all material taints can hardly see me. Then he disappeared. And from that day on, Narada Muni kept searching and searching for Krishna. And then we all know, in his next birth, he became Narada Muni. So a pure devotee is always searching for Krishna. And he doesn't say, oh, I've already seen Krishna, just like on book distribution. People from India, they're very difficult to distribute books to, at least for my case. There was one man, I said, have you heard of this book? He said, yeah, I have Bhagavad Gita. And I said, have you read it? And he said, yeah, I have Bhagavad Gita. And I said, no, that wasn't my question. My question was, have you read it? And he said, some of it, And then I pointed to the Srimad Bhagavatam, and I said, do you have this book? He said, yeah, I have Bhagavad Gita. He doesn't know that it's actually a different book than the Bhagavad Gita. So a lot of people, they say, oh, I know Krishna, right? But they don't really understand Krishna's teachings. And I ask people, what is the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita? And most of them, just do your duty, right? And then, anyway, sometimes I just kind of laugh. And then I show them the text in the 18th canto, or 18th chapter, when Krishna says, sarva dharman parityaja, to give up all forms of religion and just surrender unto me. And they say, oh, no, that's not the instruction. And I'm pointing, no, this is the final instruction that Krishna gives to Arjuna. So they argue this and that. But the great devotees, they're always feeling separation of Krishna. The gopis, the gopas, Srimati Radharani, even though they've seen Krishna, they always feel like, where is Krishna? So that's the mood of a pure devotee. And I remember I was traveling with my spiritual master, and we were in Denver, and he gave a class at one of the universities there. And there was a nice group, and one of them asked, what is this Maha Mantra? So my spiritual master told to His Grace Tushta Krishna Prabhu, you can explain it. So Tushta Krishna Prabhu, he said this chanting of Hare Krishna exactly like a cry to its mother, a child crying to its mother. And so we started chanting in that mood. And then the people actually got a little mercy from chanting. So this Hare Krishna mantra, it is a cry to Krishna, please help me. I'm stuck in this material world and I'm trying to be your competitor. Instead of remembering that we're eternal servants of Krishna, we're trying to compete with Krishna. And there's so many wonderful examples of devotees that have cried, For example, Ashwatthama, they were losing the battle. So what he did, he went to the Pandava's camp, and he beheaded the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi while they were sleeping. And he thought this would please Duryodhana, but Duryodhana, he said he was actually disgusted by this act. And so he started hiding. And Bhima, the Pandavas, they were searching for Ashwatthama. And when they found him, Ashwatthama, he was hiding in the ashram of Vyasadeva. And out of fear, Ashwatthama, he chanted a mantra to invoke the Brahmastra. And then Krishna told him his teacher or his father, Dronacharya, didn't teach him how to retract or counteract it. So he just knows how to throw it. And so after Arjuna was advised by Krishna to throw his own Brahmastra, Ashwatthama thought, why not kill the last remaining Pandava, which was King Parikshit Maharaj. And so he was in the womb of Uttara, and Uttara can sense that there's something dangerous coming. And that Brahmastra, Krishna entered her womb and protected Parikshit Maharaj. And then Parikshit Maharaj's name is the examiner. He goes around and he looks for Krishna. He examines all the different people and see if they're Krishna. And Krishna, he told Yudhishthira Maharaj an incident many years ago in Dwarka. Ashwatthama, he was very shameless, and he went to Krishna. And he knew that Krishna's Sudarshan Chakra was more powerful than this Brahmastra. So he told Krishna, please let me keep your disc. And then Krishna said, it's right here next to me. You're free to take it, but I don't want your weapon. So Ashwatthama, he tried very hard to lift this weapon, and he couldn't do it. And then Krishna asked him, why do you want my weapon? And Ashwatthama, he said, if I had managed to take it, I would have challenged you to battle, O Yadu hero. After defeating you and holding your discus, I would then have been the most powerful man on earth. So that's when Krishna told Arjuna, kill this Brahmana, And Arjuna, he kind of felt bad because he knew that it was the son of his teacher, and he was a Brahmana, and it was against the Shastras to kill a Brahmana. And when they brought Ashwatthama to Draupadi, Draupadi saw the situation that Ashwatthama was in, and she felt bad for him. So he said, release him. And then she said, just like I'm weeping for my 5 sons, I don't want Ashwatthama's mother to cry like me. So she felt compassion for Ashwatthama. But then they took the jewel out of his hair, which gave him his powers, his mystic powers. And then Krishna cursed him to travel for, I think it was 10,000 years or something like that, all over the universe. So that was the punishment for Ashwatthama. Another example of crying is when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was traveling to South India. He saw a Brahmana reading the Bhagavad Gita, but then he noticed that people were teasing him, making fun of him. And he asked them, why are you crying? He said, my spiritual master told me to read this Bhagavad Gita, but I'm illiterate. I don't even know the alphabets. So he said, but when I see the cover, when I see Krishna and Arjuna, it makes me cry. How Krishna took the role of a charioteer and took a lowly position for his devotees, and he kept crying and crying. And then Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu, he said, you know the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita, so he embraced them. So this illiterate Brahmin, although he was materially unqualified, he actually knew the purport. So one who loves Krishna is always thinking of Krishna, not even for a moment. They feel separation of Krishna. And one of the great examples is Srimati Radharani. When Krishna left Vrindavan, she couldn't almost live. But what kept her going was Krishna's promise that one day I'll be back. And also the other gopis, they felt the same way. When Krishna sent Uddhava to the gopis, Uddhava saw how all of them were in this very pity condition. All of them were crying. And he asked, why are you crying? And then Uddhava was trying to explain to Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mataji that your son is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Nanda Maharaj, he chastised Uddhava. He said, you're very intelligent. You're the disciple of Brahaspati. But you think our son is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? He said, Krishna is our son, he's our beloved. And then he said, so anyway, it was a very wonderful scene to remember the love that they had for Krishna. And the gopis, they were fainting, and they were asking animals, are you going to go see Krishna in Dwarka? Are you going to, is he thinking about us? Is he thinking about his pastime? So on. And when the conditioned soul is attracted by the material energy, he is overpowered by fear. But Prahlāda Mahārāja, he was always thinking of Krishna, so therefore he was fearless. Imagine your own father trying to kill you, throwing you in the top of a hill, asking his henchmen to cut you. So anyone in this material world would feel fear. But Prahlāda Mahārāja, he was very pacified. He was always thinking of Krishna. And so he was protected by Krishna. And the activities of a devotee cannot be understood by a non-devotee. I remember there was this one person, he said, why do you guys bow down, I told him, well, if you're in front of God, wouldn't you bow down? And he didn't think this was God, How can God appear as stone? So I was kind of preaching to him, and I told him, you should get a book. And I gave him a Science of Self-Realization. So hopefully he read that book. So yeah, the devotees, Srila Prabhupada explains, although we perform activities like karmis, our consciousness is actually, there's a vast difference. And when a new person comes to this temple, they're looking at the paintings, they're looking at the temple, and they have no idea that this is actually the spiritual world here. And one who has vision of that, they understand how important devotional service is. So the type of activities that we do, they actually reflect how much mercy we have. For example, just coming to the temple, you benefit so much. I remember when I first came to the temple, I met Dharmasetu Prabhu. And he said, what brings you here? And I said, oh, my cousin, she told me to come here. And she said, wow, you're very fortunate. And I was thinking, what the heck? What is the importance of this temple? So he said, we're going to have lunch soon, in 15 minutes, can you come back? And I said, yeah. So I went to the beach and I was just chanting. I didn't have bees, but I was just chanting the Maha Mantra. And then I came back, and then someone made a plate for me, and I was eating in the patio there. And I was thinking, although we're eating food, so-called food, it's actually prasadam, food that's offered to Krishna. And then Krishna says, those that don't offer me their food, they verily eat their own sins. So people that don't offer their food to Krishna, they're just piling up their reactions. Okay. So I'll tell a few Sankirtan stories. There was this Mataji yesterday. She had a shirt, and it said, today is a good day to get a book, to read a book. So I said, excuse me, miss, I like your shirt. I said, I have a book for you. And she said, really? So she came to the table. And I said, where did you get that shirt? She said, I got it at a convention, like a book convention. So I asked her, have you read these books? The Matajis, they made this set. It's a Science of Self-Realization on the bottom, Bhagavad Gita in the middle, and then on the top, Chant and Be Happy. So it's 3 books. And I said, have you read these books? And she said, no. And I said, these books, they'll help to solve all the problems in life. And she said, that's a bold statement. And I said, it's true. And I told her, why would I be here, So I was explaining the Bhagavad Gita to her. And also, how important reading is in society. Nowadays, people are they're locked in their computer, video games, so on. So I told her you should get these books, and you should also give a set to a friend. So she took 2 stacks, and then she gave a nice donation. And then I told her, maybe you can send a shirt to the temple. And so she asked for the address of the temple, and I gave her one of our events guide. So who knows, maybe she'll send that shirt, and I'll wear it on Sankirtan. I was explaining to this young man that anger is a very ugly quality to have. No one wants to be around an angry person. So after he took the books, he said, when you saw me, what did you see? Did you see that I was angry? And I told him, do you want me to be honest? He said, yeah. I told him you looked lost, and it looks like you were searching for something. And this young man started crying right there. And I said, are you okay? He said, I'm not happy with what's going on in my life. And I said, what's happening? And they said, I lost my job. I'm having problems with my relationship and so on. So I said, read these books 5 minutes a day. You'll see a big difference. How you see others, how you see yourself, and your goals in life will also change. And he appreciated our conversation. I asked him, what's your name? And then his name was Chad. So back to Chad, if you're listening, And there was this one Mataji, she came to my table because she said, I really like yoga, meditation, and philosophy. So I was giving her the set of books, and she said, wow, this looks like a nice gift. And I said, it is a gift to you. And she said, how much do you want for this gift? I said, I love Vijay's line, I gave my life, so you can give whatever you can. And she said, I can't do that. I said, you can give $1, you can give $100. And she said, do you take a card? And I said, yeah. So she gave $45 for the stack. And also gave her Hiding in Unnatural Happiness. And she said, why is this book, why did you recommend this book? And I said, each and every one of us is looking for happiness, but we're looking for it in the wrong places. And then she started telling me her story, She thought marrying a rich man would make her happy, this and that. And then she said, I'm actually very miserable. So I said, because happiness is not it's not conditional. And I told her it's the consciousness that affects your happiness. And then so she took the books, and then she gave that donation, and then she went on her way. And as she was leaving, she said, this is truly a gift right here. She was telling her family. There was this Muslim man. In the beginning, I didn't know what he was about, And they kept saying, I'm beyond this, And I said, what do you do? He said, I make money. And I said, what do you do with that money? He said, I give in charity. And I said, oh, would you like to give for our cause? And then he said, no. And I said, why not? And they said, you should go get a job first, And I said, I am working. And then he said, you're not working, you're just out here, asking for this and that. So I remained bull, cool-headed, collected, calm. So he said, I don't want to talk to you anymore. So he left angry like that. And there was this one person that was watching this, but he left also. And a few minutes later, maybe 30 minutes later, this man came up to me and he apologized. He said, I'm sorry I got angry at you. He said, but I think what you're doing is very important, helping people to become more thoughtful in their way of life. After he apologized, he chanted the Hare Krishna Mahan mantra. And then he asked me to say, I'm sorry, Malam, Salam Alaikum, yeah. Is he? Okay, I don't know. And then, yeah, I think, yeah. He said, yeah. So I said, thank you for teaching me that. And then he folded his hands again and he said, Hare Krishna, like that. So he was chanting Hare Krishna after he apologized. So I really like that. And there was this one Mataji that drove all the way from LA. And she said, I drove all the way here to see if there's something I can learn today. So I gave her the books, and then while I was talking to her, there was just two other Matajis. They said, this book is in our hostel. And I said, what book? She said, Bhagavad Gita and SSR. Someone had put these books in their hostel. And then, so anyway, long story short, she really liked the books. And I also started distributing Light of the Bhagavat. It has a lot of nice illustrations, and it's nice poetry, and what we can learn from nature. And then she said, thank you for being here. And I told her, this is a thankless task. And she said, I can see that, you know. So we just started laughing. And then she said, is it okay if I take a picture of you? And I told her, I'll break your camera. She said, no, no, no. So she said, I want to remember this day, because she said she works so, she has 2 jobs, you know. She hardly has any time for herself. So she said, when I came here, I was really hoping to find something very important. And then she said, thank you once again. So she took a picture, and I said, maybe you can share these books when you're done. You know, that's the way you can repay. And then she said, for sure. So she took the books, and then she went on her way. A few, maybe 30 minutes later, she came back, and she said, I want to take another set for a friend. So she gave another donation. And then when she was walking away, she said, thankless task. So the devotees, you know, we get a lot of no's, rejections, but we're not after people that are just very cheap, you know. Srila Prabhupada said, what is the use of billions of stars when one moon can illuminate the whole darkness? So we're looking for those right people. And Srila Prabhupada, I'm reading the Prabhupada Lilamrita right now. And it's just describing the hardships that Srila Prabhupada went through, you know, to get the money, the funds to publish the books, the papers. He had to go from Delhi to here and there. And then now he's on his way to America. That's where I'm at right now. And it's so blissful, you know. And so yeah, Srila Prabhupada, the trouble to translate, write, print, and publish his books, we should try to distribute them. We have a few more days for the December marathon. So let's try to distribute 1 book. Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions? Comments? Yes.
Unless maybe you've read it already. I don't know. Bhakti Swami has written quite a book meditating on Prabhupada. I forget what he calls it. Jai Shri Prabhupada. And there's a chapter. Have you read that chapter on? It's just on Prabhupada getting on the boat, and he's meditating on all the things that you know that enabled and everything. It's wonderfully written. I don't know if you've read it yet. If not, it's complimentary. It's wonderful complimentary to the part of the book that the Lamita that you're reading. Yeah, that's really good.
And when I was reading how Prabhupada got a ticket and his passport and visa were approved, I was feeling some ecstasy, you know, like, wow, Srila Prabhupada about to come to the U.S., you know. So yeah, he went through so much hardships, you know, so the least we can do is try to distribute some of his books. Okay. So I heard we have a special breakfast today, cooked by the Matajis. So with that, Grantaraj Balaram Prabhu.
It's just a detail, but I guess a lot of details could eventually be considered important to know, but the answer to them. But the Chanakya Pandit says, okay, a wife that's too beautiful considered enemy. Okay, I think everyone can understand why. I think, what do they say? The husband who dies and leaves dead. Okay, everyone could understand that. What other one was it?
Son
who's a rascal. Yeah, everyone could understand that one. Now, what about this one of, okay, a mother who remarries? Mm-hmm. Say, hey, she's just, you know, fulfilling her desires or whatever. Like, what's the big deal? Does anybody have any shastric, or we could go so far as to say philosophical speculations about?
But I think I can understand it.
Or logical?
Yeah. There's such a bond, you know, the children are growing up and there's a father. I mean, the divorce or the death of the father, or you know, is of course traumatic. But for the mother to, you know, because the children, it's like a kind of a structure of loving care, you know, that to grow up nicely, you know. I mean, a lot of times in today's world that's broken, but that's ideal. So if the mother then turns that, brings in an alien person, because this grown, this adult guy, they don't have any relationship, and he's drawing away the affection of the mother on someone else. And what happened to the dad? That it should be exclusively for the father that we knew. It's just a very confusing thing. So, and also there's often so many cases where when that happens, that father does not really love the kids, and there's a whole breakage there, and sometimes there's an abuse, and it can break up everything. So I think that, just without any shastric understanding, I think that it's a very traumatic thing for kids. It's traumatic enough the father isn't there, and then bring in some alien personality. It's very. And it's all because of.
Does that help, Balaram? Okay, wonderful. Okay, Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhu. This is Paneshwari Lakshmi. I'm sorry, this is probably uncalled for, but I'm in the hospital with my mom, and I am requesting all the devotees. Can you guys all chant Hare Krishna really loud for her right now?
Okay.
She hears all the devotees. She will come out of her kind of a difficult state. She loves you guys. She woke up when she heard the Guru Puja and saw Srila Prabhupada and the deities. I really need you guys to chant really loud so she can hear all your voices, and she'll know that this is not her time.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Okay, Vinipistona, do you hear them? All the devotees want you back. Okay? Thank you. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
One more time. Hare
Okay.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you, Mataji, for reaching out.
Thank you so much. Haribol.
Hare Krishna.